All right, we're going to try to keep things snappy and on time here. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming today. I hope Seattle is treating you well so far. This session is a little different in that we have given our tech people a difficult time by having 5 speakers. So we're going to all share the podium here. So we've got representatives from all InterSystems products here, HealthShare, TrakCare, InterSystems Iris, and Iris for Health. And we thought it would be interesting this time to give you kind of an overview of everything in analytics across the portfolio. We've had feedback from prior summits that sometimes it's confusing to know which sessions apply to which product. So we're going to try and help you with that, as well as talk through some of the innovations that the things that we've been busy with over the last couple of years, and kind of bring you up to date from where we were at the last Global Summit. So before we do that, are you all falling in a trance from this slide, by the way? I debated whether or not this made sense to do. But you all have some notion of what analytics is because you signed up for this session, right? So probably the question you have is, what do we mean? What are we talking about today? And as you probably know, our database platform is something that integrates, stores, manages data super efficiently and super fast, and we pride ourselves on that. And then we have applications, products like HealthShare, TrakCare, and the applications that you build that are on that ship data models, that ship products that provide some level of insight already as part of the product. So what we mean by analytics are all those tools and practices and capabilities that allow you to grab insight from that data that we store, present it, look for patterns, and do that. So those are the sets of products that we're going to be talking about. And some of them are longtime old friends, people that are products that you've worked with for a long time. Some of them are some new things that we've brought into the portfolio over the last couple of years. And we've included a good amount of time for questions at the end. So as we're going through this today, please keep those questions in mind, and we'll have time at the end where the 5 of us will sit up at the front and you can fire questions at us, okay? So to get started, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's the general strategy about delivering analytics solutions across the whole portfolio at InterSystems. And as a general practice, what we do is we kind of pioneer, try out, and trial solutions in the Iris and Iris for Health platform. That's a developer platform, so it gives us an opportunity to try new things, to learn from the developers who are working with it. And then our solutions, HealthShare and TrakCare, do kind of the same thing, where they evaluate those solutions just like you do, and decide whether or not they apply for their portfolio as well. So that's kind of the general practice. That's how we approach it, to try and drive that innovation across the whole portfolio. However, there are counterexamples of that. Sometimes the application identifies customer needs. As an example, the TrakCare team identified probably 5 years ago that they needed a new reporting solution to embed in their product, so they did that. They worked with Logue Analytics to build that into the TrakCare portfolio. And then a year or two later, Iris, we found that we had the same need for our customers. So we talked to the TrakCare team, found out their experience, learned from them, and in our evaluation, it took that highly into consideration and actually embedded the same product in Iris, and that's what InterSystems Reports is. So it does go both directions, but in general, we kind of try things out in Iris. So now we're going to kind of take a tour through the whole portfolio, and this is where we'll have different people coming up to the podium to share some of the things that we've done. Like I said, we kind of took a view of the last year and a half, 2 years, in that sort of realm, to bring you up to speed with what we have available now. So to do that, I'm going to start by turning it over to Tom.
All right. Excuse me. So within the Iris and Iris for Health products, I'm going to just kind of overview like the different areas, and then Benjamin and Carmen are going to talk more about the sequel, but I'm going to talk about what we have done in IntegratedML. And so to recap what IntegratedML is, it's an all-SQL machine learning capability within Iris. So, we think of it as giving data engineers, data analysts that really know the data, kind of ML superpowers. So with 3 simple kind of commands, create model, train model, and then using a select predict, you can use machine learning within Iris. So the last Global Summit, like 3 years ago, we previewed it, but now it's generally available. And just so you know, in Iris 2022.1 that's just coming out, you have to get it in a separate kit. So it turns out that people want integrated ML, but some people don't, and so they're going to need to, and some people can't really take a kit that has all the things that we include with integrated ML, so we've split it out into separate kits. And then, some other sessions, we've talked about some different things that we're working on in the future. Earlier today, David Lepselter, a data scientist at InterSystems, talked about explanations that we're going to be putting in a new keyword for integrated ML to get explanations. So not only getting the prediction, but getting which columns and how much of those columns contributed to that prediction. So that's really important in a lot of applications. Again, another application kind of use case is time series modeling. So we're adding syntax to that. I'm going to give a preview of that tomorrow at a session in the afternoon. And so then to talk about what's new in SQL, I'm going to hand over to Benjamin.
Thank you, Tom. So Tom already gave a great quick overview of integrated ML, which is a capability we've added to SQL, but there's yet more to SQL than creating models. So in much of this is already in released products. So last year, 21.1, we really kind of blew up the vocabulary of analytical constructs that you can use in queries and kind of significantly increasing your capability to build your entire report within a single SQL query. A great example of that are window functions. For those not familiar with it, it's kind of doing an aggregate of parts of your result set rather than on a whole set of rows. So there's if you're thinking about a nice report with kind of interim cumulative results and that kind of stuff, so you can express all of that in a single SQL query. And why is that so exciting? You've got to write it, but there's great tools that can write those. For example, Adaptive Analytics will generate those in the background without you noticing. But the great thing about being able to express this in SQL is that you're pushing all of the compute into your data tier. So rather than first having to extract all of the data in detail level to your BI or reporting tool, we can now push all of that work into the data tier, which makes more efficient use of your resources. Some examples of that, there's a virtual summit 2021 session in which I give a couple of examples of that if I can make a shameless plug here. The SQL Loader is another capability that we added in 21.2, which is what it says. It's a simple utility. It's load data from file, and then you give the location of your CSV file into table and the name of your table, and that's it. It's that simple. It's a really simple and standard way for getting your data into an Iris instance. You can load from files or from JDBC sources, and it's part of the platform. This was also a tool for which we had a preview release, and through the developer community, we asked you for feedback, and we got a lot of great ideas. Some of those, also some bug reports, we were able to fix prior to the GA release of 21.2, and then others we've been working on since, and you'll see a couple of those in 22.1 and 22.2. Sorry, long day. And there's much more. User-defined aggregate functions allow you to define your own sums if you're in the business of defining your own sums. But this is something that's very important for certain of our financial services customers that need to do really complex calculations. Like the window functions, it's pushing compute closer to the data. In sharded clusters, if you have been in this room for longer than 10 minutes, you might have been attending my talk on horizontal scalability, in which I talked a little bit more about sharded clusters and what we've been doing in that area. The ability to rebalance your data without interrupting ongoing queries is one of the things that we're introducing with 22.2. We have made really great advances in the amount of statistics that we gather and the speed at which we can gather them. more about that in a session tomorrow, which allow us to implement runtime plan choice. And I'll be doing a demo of that tomorrow in one of the keynote sessions. So all giving you faster, meaner, and more efficient SQL for all of your analytic requirements. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Carmen.
Yeah, and there won't be a test about what's in each release, but we do have, at the end of this, I'll share a list of sessions. So Benjamin mentioned a few of them, so kind of some guidance from us about, where we're covering what. So hopefully that will help you do that. So one of the other reasons we wanted to do this session is because we have done a lot of work in these areas over the last couple years. So just trying to summarize those for you in a few slides so you can kind of get a sense of that, and then dig in, hopefully, into one of these other sessions where we go into this in a lot more detail. So I'm going to talk about the three areas that I'm a product manager for, and I'm pretty excited about what we've been able to do in the last couple of years in all three areas, actually. So the first one here is adaptive analytics. We'll talk about we'll have a mini demo tomorrow in a main stage session. There also, unfortunately, was a session just before this where there were some additional demos, and I think, Tom, you're going to have some adaptive analytics demos on Thursday, is it? Tomorrow? Tomorrow, in advanced topics with IntegratedML. So a couple of different opportunities to see that. Now, this was something that became available from InterSystems about a year ago, and it was a partnership with AtScale, who's here at the conference in the partner pavilion, so if you're interested in learning more about them. And so we did development work together for about a year to create this offer. And from my perspective, really, the key benefit that you get from adaptive analytics is the ability to create a common set of semantic layer that's available to any BI tool that somebody's using. So it's very effective when you have a lot of complicated data that you want to put together in a simplified way. And the important thing here for us, anyways, is that this data all stays in Iris. Okay, it stays in InterSystems Iris. You're creating a virtual layer, a virtual set of cubes that you can then project to Excel, to Tableau, to Power BI. And the nice thing there is that you get kind of this curated view of the data. So it's for people so that the BI user doesn't have to understand the details of the tables and the joins and all that stuff. It gives you that data in a way that's easy to understand. So that's something, like I said, that we added about a year ago. So pretty excited about seeing, how this is getting used and deployed at some of our customers. The second thing I'll talk about is InterSystems Reports. I made reference to this before, and so you can see a couple of pretty examples there that come out of the kind of the sample set that's shipped with InterSystems Reports. This is something that our TrakCare team has been using for quite a while. It became available with Iris about almost 2 years ago now, so it's been there for a little while. And if you haven't checked it out, please do. It's embedded with Iris, or it's included with Iris. It's actually a separate install. And basically the primary benefit here is if you have customers or have needs for scheduling and distributing reports, as well as pretty complex visualizations, as you can see from that. So you can do everything from kind of forms that need to be filled in with the data, whether it's billing or government forms, as well as kind of some beautiful, reports that can be sent out, scheduled. If they need to go out once a week, every Monday morning, kind of set it and forget it. So a scheduler built into that. So that's another benefit for people who have a need to do kind of general report scheduling. And then the third area I'll talk about is our friend InterSystems Iris BI, which has been part of the product for a long time, originally was known as DeepSea, so some of you may still know it as that. And our real focus over the last couple years has been in performance. So I want to be real clear that we're investing in Iris BI and are working on performance, scalability, and kind of putting some guardrails up. If you're interested in hearing more details of what we're doing, both with reports and InterSystems Iris BI, there's a session tomorrow where we're going to go into a lot more detail. My colleague Asaf back there is going to co-present with me, and we're going to go into a lot more detail about some of the things that we're doing there, so you can take advantage of that if you are a current user of either DeepSea or Iris BI. So those are the three areas that I was going to cover. So that kind of concludes the InterSystems Iris and Iris for Health portion, big tour of what we've done over the last year to 2 years. I'm going to now turn it over to Alex, who's going to talk about HealthShare.
Thanks, Carmen. I kind of expected there to be a laptop here, and now there isn't. So I actually only have one slide, but I wanted to cover two things. A, how do we think about analytics in HealthShare? And then B, some of the real features that we've been working on over the last year and a half. But one of the things that we found is no matter which use case you're using HealthShare for, everything kind of centers around the healthcare data model, right? And the way we can demo or talk about HealthShare is you take the data model and then you present that out through different vehicles, right? Whether that's to a clinician, to a patient, to analytics use cases, right? So that's where it starts. A lot of people, when they hear analytics for HealthShare, that equals health insight, which is certainly one piece of the larger analytics story, but we've always been big about freedom of choice, right? So health insight is the relational expression of that data model, but then you get a variety of choices of how you analyze that data. So we have Iris BI, we have Power BI, we have Tableau, we have InterSystems Reports. We have customers that have existing data warehouses or other technologies that they want to express that data model in. So, you know, there's a lot of ways you can do analysis on the data that kind of HealthShare aggregates and conditions for you. So we've kind of labeled this overarching story the HealthShare Analytics solution, and really focused on kind of making the whole thing better and not just focusing on health insight. So there's a couple of things we've been working on, but I think one of the most confusing things with everything I just listed is when do you use what? We do have a session that's happening tomorrow that's called So Many Tools, So Much Power, or something along those lines, where we're really taking you through, here's the different analytical use cases you might have, and here's which tool you use. We're actually spending a lot of time internally benchmarking these different tools and how they perform for different use cases. So we take a set of like clinical analysis, operational analytics scenarios, and we test them through Power BI, through adaptive analytics, through InterSystems Report. And that effort is ongoing, but you'll hear some of that tomorrow. The other more concrete features that we've been working on is A, we've piggybacked off of InterSystems Iris, like Carmen was explaining, and InterSystems Reports is now available to connect to Health Insight or that data model, just like it would to any other relational structure, right? So you can create pretty nice-looking reports when you need a listing of patients, for example. You know. The other one, and this sounds really trivial, but we've supported ingesting claims data and kind of marrying that up with the clinical data for a while. A, that support is now more robust and that we ingest more fields, but the other thing is we now not only populate like the claims and claim lines pieces of the object model, we also like infer the data to put, for example, into the diagnosis table, right? So now you're really kind of getting the benefit of combining the two types of data sets. The other thing we've been constantly working on is improving performance for data ingestion and how data flows, you know, from Health Connect to UCR to Health Insight. We've been working on a next generation of that data pipeline and how it moves, which is called the System Index, which I think you'll hear more about in the New and Next session for Health Insight. Basically, the System Index deals with how data moves from one product to another. The first product that adopts it in 22.1 is Health Insight. So for pulling data from the UCR into Health Insight, we've rolled that out in a limited fashion to see how it performs with, you know, particular customers. So if you want to hear more about that, feel free to contact Matt Spielman, who's the product manager for it. We also worked on time zone offset support, which is another one that kind of sounds trivial. And the first thing you think of, or that I think of when I hear time zone, is like international customers, but it's actually very applicable for large health systems in the US as well that operate in different time zones. So where's that data ingested? How's that presented in other locations that might operate in a different time zone? So that was a big one that we had to kind of support both in the upstream part of Unified Care Record and then downstream in Health Insight. And then the last part, which is in early access program right now, is we had kind of a poor man's feature of anonymizing data as it flows from Unified Care Record to Health Insight by basically just being able to define fields that you want blocked so they wouldn't flow over. So for example, you wouldn't see the MRN or you wouldn't see the patient's demographics. We have enhanced that to really comply with HIPAA safe harbor rules, anonymize or pseudonymize the data. And that actually works in any of our products. So it applies to Health Connect, Iris, HealthShare. And it has hooks so that you can kind of adapt it to work with regional regulations you might have, or anything beyond HIPAA that you might need in terms of how you massage that data and represent it. It works on structured data only right now, no unstructured at this point. But if through the CVent app you can sign up if you want early access to that feature and test it out, we're in testing with a handful of customers right now to see how it functions. But we have a lot of people interested in this for research or life sciences use cases, or testing data. Those are kind of more the simple ones. But we're quite excited about this feature. And with that, I'll hand it over to Eslam to talk about TrakCare.
So just before talking, I think, sorry. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. So just before talking about TrakCare specific highlights, I want just again, raise that TrakCare is built on top of IRIS for Health. So all the features have been mentioned by Benjamin, by Carmen, about all the things have been done in IRIS for Health, like improvement in SQL engine, all the product like adaptive analytics and IRIS report already coming, out of the box. Most of those features already with your upgrades to IRIS with TrakCare upgrades, you're getting it, and some of that we just need to adapt it inside TrakCare. So what we're doing like the last 2-3 years, mainly with TrakCare analytics, is that we were increasing our portfolio, because we believe it's not, in analytics, you don't need only one tool. You have different tools that, as Alex mentioned, each tool might be fitting a different use case. So as example, like last year, we introduced Innovation Toolkit as an option to access your clinical data through FHIR. As is one of the options, we just have a session just before this session to talk about it. If you miss that, we already have recorded, so you can watch to know more about Innovation Toolkit. Another one is what Carmen was talking about, is adaptive analytics, which is giving the power to our customer to have their own virtual cubes, and this was one of the top requests coming from our customers. And we tested already with TrakCare, it works, but we are really looking for some early adapters to use it and see how it works. The third one, it's not mentioned here, but it's IRIS report or InterSystems Reports, Logue. So like we adapted, I think 3 years ago, we were just like the first in InterSystem to adapt it. And it really have a big improvement in time of development for our teams and also for our customers. Next, we will be talking about InterSystems analytics. So we, as a part of our new features that's coming with TrakCare, like clinical pathway and all of that, we also are enhancing our analytics cubes to fetch, to match with the new feature and adding a new dimension, match with all the feature we are releasing with TrakCare. And also we are working to improve our dashboard because we understand from our customers they are looking for more out-of-the-box dashboard. Like we give them the option to build their own dashboard, but we're increasing our profile of dashboard. Last is to match with, as mentioned in the beginning, about all the new features coming from InterSystem products. So, and also just to focus more about open analytics. So the idea is that we are giving to our customer the freedom of choice. So beside all those tools, if still customer, and this what we see is that if they want to have their own data warehouse and they want to access with SQL, we're giving this as an option to do that. If they would like to do it even from within TrakCare. So we are building on top of all of that. Besides, of course, all the new features just coming from Iris, we're trying to adapt that also to give them, more efficient way to build their own dashboard, whatever inside TrakCare or outside TrakCare. Thank you.
All right, so I did tell you that we have kind of a couple of reference slides here at the end, so I will just flash through those quickly. They should be in the PDF, I think, available too. And so what we did is we highlighted the sessions that have analytics as one of the focuses, and then mapped that to the products that they apply to. So we did have a couple that have already happened, so you'll have to go to the recording for those if you missed them, and then a couple that we have actually 3 to choose from after this session. Are you guys taking pictures? Okay. And then tomorrow, another big set of them, I think the HealthShare Analytics Solution, So Many Tools, So Much Power is the one that Alex referenced tomorrow at 4:30. You'll have to choose between that one and the one that Asaf and I are doing if you're an Iris customer. Business intelligence and reports. So we'll talk about kind of the enhancements that we've made there over the last couple of years, and all the other ones that we've got here. Benjamin is like a one-man show of sessions, I think. And then on Thursday, everybody can go to the same one. So if you're interested in analytics, those are the ones that are available. So please, take pictures, take notes, and attend. So I did warn you at the beginning that we had left a good amount of time at the end for questions if you have them, kind of either across the whole portfolio or if there are specific things about the individual products, you can ask those as well. We're going to grab those mics. We do need to have you on mic if you ask a question for the recording. And then a couple of other things I'll mention too. Visit the Tech Exchange. We have a lot of great people there, a lot of developers who can answer probably any question you have. And sign up for the early access program. So I'll just take a minute and talk about that. There's a couple ways to do that. One is with the QR code. That'll take you to a sign-up page. We have a whole cornucopia of early access programs that we're starting here at Summit. I think there's 6 of them. And if you haven't heard of early access programs, those are what we're experimenting with here, is getting people access to some of our solutions before they're generally available. The idea being you get to use it for a while ahead of everybody. You give us feedback so you can help kind of shape these features and these products. So those are the things that we have available that we're looking for sign-up. Some of them are going to start right away. Some of them will start a little bit later after Summit. But if you sign up through that site, then we'll get in touch with you for that. There's also a place, in addition to the QR code, in the conference app. If you go to the additional things menu bar, slide all the way down. You can get access to it from there too. There's a link from there as well. So with that, I thank you on behalf of all 5 of us and open it up for questions. Oh. That's right.
Oh, I'm sorry. The SQL loader, does it work in reverse?
That's an excellent question. This is also something that came up in the survey we had for those early preview users that I mentioned, and it came up as a feature request. We haven't yet been able to implement it, but that definitely is in the works, so that you would be able to use the exact same semantics, the exact same parameters that you use for loading, for exporting.
Sometimes for clients you have to show them something, so you have a piece of query with aggregates and so forth. And you end up like cutting and pasting into Excel is like nasty
Yes.
It's basically should be equivalent to what Microsoft SQL Server has, which is the BCP.
Yes, we know. We've seen that one too. But then again, one of the things that we wanted to avoid with this is that we want to avoid that you need a command line tool for doing that kind of work. So a separate tool other than we would like it to be all SQL rather than use a command line tool like SQL Loader for Oracle or Oracle Data Pump, which are all kind of complicated APIs rather than just a simple command that you could issue from dbeaver or Squirrel or whichever tool that you prefer. But thank you for reinforcing the need for adding that capability.
So for the anonymizer, Alex, can you describe how that works in a little more detail?
Yeah, so it basically uses XSLT and apologies, like I'll try to start from the beginning, but it basically works on the SDA representation of the data we're getting in. So that way, if you're getting HL7 or FHIR or something, we have automatic projections of that to SDA, and then the XSLT is run on that to anonymize it, and you get like a before and after. We're actually showing a little bit of a screenshot demo of it tomorrow in that session too, if you're interested in that.
Which session was that?
The So Many Tools, So Much Power. So you can see it in kind of screenshotted action at least a little bit, but we'll be happy to set up a demo for you too. But that's broad stroke how it works.
Thank you.
Still a question about SQL loader. GDPC, is it by query or is it table to table, or view to table?
It is currently table to table. I think the ability to to specify a source query. So that's for loading through JDBC. We also intend to support loading from a query, but that's only a short hop.
Okay,
but the target is obviously a single table.
That's for sure. Yeah. Okay.
Does the adaptive analytics ship with IRIS or only with TrakCare, HealthShare, etc.?
Yeah. So adaptive analytics is available as an add-on to IRIS and IRIS for Health. Mm-hmm.
And so with that, then you'd have to actually build the semantic layers for those customized data sources.
You would design that, right? That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For the SQL loader, would it be productionizable, right? So if a reoccurring JDBC loads or CSV loads would be reoccurring, and does it actually, do you have a landing space and then do processing after it, or are you expecting processing during the transformation of ingest?
So this is something for which you'll probably like the demo that Sam is going to give tomorrow in Jeff's keynote of Iris Cloud SQL, where you see exactly that workflow. You can first upload your files, and then you can have it load those files, because it's for the load data command itself. It assumes that it has access to the files locally, which is, of course, if you're calling in through a JDBC connection, which might not really hold. But in the Cloud SQL interface, in that model, it's really dealt with in a nice workflow. This is also one of the things that came up in the survey to make that as smooth as possible. For the Iris Cloud SQL offering, you can also point to an S3 bucket where the data might be, rather than having to first move it into that staging area. And I'll try not to give away too much more of Sam's demo.
I saw on your semantic layer model you had like a date hierarchy that currently probably goes year, quarter, month, day, week, something like that. Does it go any lower than that? Can I do like hour, minute, second level hierarchies also in that same object?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Actually, you may want to chime in on this, yeah, because you had a good time doing
You
this.
can,
Yes.
you can.
Yeah.
You just are there, you just do the hierarchies the way you like, and it's a good advantage. So it's not fixed.
Right.
Even for the date, you can do a different calendar, like, I don't know, H3 calendar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and I mean, people use it. You can use it also for if there's a special, different quarter system, for example, or you want to group things differently from a calendar standpoint. Yeah, pretty flexible.
So your reporting is called something reporting.
InterSystems.
Okay.
Just to trick people. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
firstly, do you support or plan to support like a mail merge, so that like a replacement for Word, where you have to, just schedule a bunch of nicely formatted documents that are based on data? That's number one. And the second one is, do you have a library where we can embed it into a web application, like a custom web application?
Yeah, so a couple things for that, for InterSystems Reports. And actually, you could, if TrakCare does any of this, you can jump in there. But so it provides the report output in a whole variety of formats. So your question about the formatting. And it has an embedded scheduler, as well as something called report bursting, which allows you to publish, for example, if you have monthly billing or something that you need to go out that goes to different addresses, right? You can set up to do that kind of stuff as well. And then I forgot your other part of the question.
Well,
yeah.
The mail merge, it's
Oh,
a format that's non-tabular. So it's like basically a letter.
Yeah. So you can actually, so it's got a lot of flexibility around how so there's a designer part of the report that allows you to you have almost a blank canvas on which to kind of put the reporting elements. And so you can put multiple elements in the same report, as well as have, you saw probably on the screen that sort of, that form kind of structure as well. So if you have background, headers and all that kind of stuff, you can do that.
So the second question is whether you have a JavaScript library so we can embed it into our own web application.
Yeah, we do not.
In a way, you
Yeah.
can, they have two options. One, you can have an API just generates the report and gets the PDF and embed it as a part of your application. And also they have more like a viewer, and we're using that in TrakCare. So that viewer is basically a link. You pass everything, and inside that viewer, it will display the report, whatever it's PDF, Excel, HTML. They support all this kind of formats.
So that's in a different tab as opposed to embedded?
No, you can embed it as iframe if you want, something like that. Or even if you want, do like Java, they support Java and they support REST endpoint. You can get the PDF and do whatever you like with the PDF. Put it in your app, export it. They have both, and we are doing it, like server printing, and they have local preview.
Okay, thank you.
A little bit on the same. As far as the bursting, have you guys done anything with bursting the messages to WhatsApp or Signal or other apps? Because that's getting quite useful for the younger generation.
Yeah, that's cool. So we have not. You guys haven't. Have you experimented with that?
It's interesting, but usually this will be more like some kind of integration, interoperability. Again, you can, and this is great about InterSystems Reports, that you can get the PDF and then have a production. But then you need to figure out the pieces, like which phone you need to send it based on what. But you can. Once you have the PDF, you can send it whatever needed by email. This is a common way. Sometimes we send to regions because it's TrakCare. Again, they give you all the tools and empower you, and you just take it and use it the way you like.
Yeah, and we haven't done it with WhatsApp, but in HealthShare we've done with Teams quite often, to attach a patient report or something. It looks quite nice.
I have a superannuation fund that typically, I have a superannuation fund, which, if nobody knows what that is, it's a required retirement pension plan that you have to self-sacrifice to. And typically, when you get your very first job, there's one super fund that you have to join because most of it is, retail or manual type labor. So you can imagine an 18-year-old being really excited about getting their money putting away for 50 years, right? So to interact with those individuals, they wanted to push that information into the new types of platforms to really get them engaged on, oh, you're saving and you're actually making money, et cetera.
What's the delivery timeline for time series?
So it is in prototype form. So we're hoping, within the year from now.
All right. I won't hold you to it.
I don't. Cannot hold me to it. But it's farther along than just thinking. Much farther along. see kind of a demo tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thanks for all the great questions.
Yeah.
And enjoy the rest of the time.